Good morning, everybody. Hopefully, you had a wonderful Thanksgiving extended weekend. Got some great stuff for how to prepare for next year on today's call. So, before we get started on that, we want to talk about the 5-cube tape breakdown. Remember, this is how you get better, and it's only every other week. It only takes you about 5 minutes to listen to and maybe 15, 20 minutes to think about to make yourself better. What do you do when a husband and wife disagree? Guys, does your do husbands and wives ever disagree? Yes, they do. So this is a way to get not offend either one of them and get them both on your side. Okay. Hey, Missy, I can't find my question box. You need to help me a second here so I can see them answering.
So go to the top and hit under View.
Yep.
And you should be able to click questions. Put a check mark by the questions.
Chat, webcam. Boy, it doesn't give me that choice. Attendees, audience view. Sorry, guys. Chat, webcam, but there's no questions. Well, you'll have to, if anybody says anything that I need to know about, then let me know and we'll fix this afterwards. So
okay, sounds good.
Nice when they update software without telling us. So 2022, how do we prepare for 2022? Well, as the famous Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up in the same place. So if you don't make any changes to your business plan for 2022, guess what you're going to make next in 2022? Something similar to what you made this year. So this is the time to plan. We're at the beginning of December now. So you should be planning right now for your 2022. So let's talk about how you can build a better business plan. First of all, you need to have a simple mission statement. I'm not a big fan of mission statements because they're blah, 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 gobbledygook, same old catchy words and tricky phrases. So when we talk about a simple mission statement, it should be something, a one sentence, how you plan on conducting yourself in 2022. Then you want to set goals. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Identify your ideal clients. Who do you want to attract? Know your unique selling proposition. What makes you different from everybody else? If you do not have a unique selling proposition, you are not going to be overly successful in the coming year because you're going to be competing against everybody else that's saying the exact same thing. How many of our competitors say that they're retirement experts? How many of our competitors say that they're Social Security experts? How many of our competitors say they're tax experts? How many of our competitors say they're self-money experts? All of them. So you need to have something that makes you unique. And then you need to set your priorities. What do I mean by priorities? Guys, I cannot tell you how many, and it's okay if you want to do this, but then you have to be satisfied with not being as successful as you can be. I can't tell you how many times I've heard guys say, well, I got to take the next 3 months off because I am remodeling the bathroom. Guys, do you really need to well, let me ask you a question. Do you think I ever, and Missy, can you see the questions so you can kind of give me some answers here?
Yep, I can see them.
Okay. So guys, do you think I ever remodeled, in the past 25 years, do you think I ever remodeled my bathroom? Do you think I ever remodeled the basement? Do you think I ever put up a fence in the backyard? Do you think I ever cleaned the gutters on my house?
Getting lots of sures and of courses.
Really? Do you think I did it? Do you think I picked up a hammer? Do you think I picked up a ladder? Do you think I picked up any of those things?
Now I got a whole bunch of not you personally.
No, why?
Because you hired someone.
How easy would it be for me to pay $40,000, $30,000, $25,000 to have somebody remodel my bathroom for me? Spend $15,000 to put up the fence for me. How much do you have to sell to make $30,000, guys? How much do you have to sell to make $30,000? So taking 3 months off to remodel your bathroom is a smart business move or an idiotic business move? Because if you can't write 500,000 in 3 months, you better find what? So guys, you are in a business where you can make unbelievable amounts of money that requires no overhead or very low overhead, no warehousing of products, no supply chain problems. You guys have supply chain problems? You have none of those things, and yet you make a ton of money. How much do you think that a Walmart or your local small business would love to have the kind of profit margin that you have? Because what's your profit margin? Do you have to create the product? Do you have to hire all the people to maintain the product? Your profit margin is what? It's nearly 100%. So set your priorities. Are your priorities remodeling your bathroom? Are your priorities traveling? That's okay if that's the case, but what have you just said about your business? What is remodeling the bathroom is a priority, and and your business is a secondary thought. Put your money, put your skills, put your time where you make the most money. Now, if you make way less than $32,000 over 3 months, then yeah, I guess you should remodel your bedroom or your bathroom. But then you got to sit down, because if you're making less than that, you need to sit down with Jeff or myself, and we will help you get your skills up to the point where you're not making $32,000 over 3 months. You're making it every month, every half a month, okay? And then throughout the year, adjust the plan as needed. So what do I think about sales goals, guys? Do I like goals or do I like systems? I like systems. So that means you work backwards. What do I want? So if I want to make $1 million this year, if I want to make $500,000 this year, whatever that may be, that's my goal. But I don't use that as the be all end all. In fact, once I've determined, I just use that to determine what kind of system I need in place. Because if I have a goal of $1 million a year of income, or $500,000 a year of income, or $360,000 a year of income, and I'm 3 months into the year and I've only made 50 grand, what will I do with my goal? I'll throw it out. So I can't make that, so I guess I'll start next year. That's why I don't do that. Because deciding on an income is worthless. What you need to decide on is how, if this is my goal, if this income is a goal, how would I get there? And that's what we're going to talk about today. You got to work backwards. And then see, once you know how you would get there, then you know the activities you need to do to make that million. Because just having a lofty goal is worthless. What you need to do is determine, what activity do I need to get to that goal? So first you want to determine, how much do you need to make a year to live comfortably? And are you happy with that? So like I said, using the example of the bathroom remodeling, maybe you make $100 grand a year and you're comfortable with that, and you're not interested in making $132,000 to have somebody else remodel your bathroom for you. Well, I guess that's why we are independent business people. That's why we're independent advisors. So we are in control of our destiny. So you're happy with 100. So, and you think, well, rather than make 132, I'll just remodel that bathroom myself. That's cool. Maybe that's your hobby, that's your thing, and you're living a good life at 100,000. But every single advisor we've had come onto the system, what did they want to do? Why did they come onto the system?
They wanted to make more money.
Anybody not come on the system for that?
No, I've never heard another reason, no.
in 20 years. So guys, if you're on 5Q, utilize the tools we give you to make more money. So you can not only remodel one bedroom, or bathroom, you can remodel the bathroom and buy a second home, or you can remodel 3 bathrooms. You can do, guys, it's so easy to make money in this business if you decide that's a priority. So decide what you need to make. And then on average, you have to figure out, on average, how much do I make per new client? So how do you determine, and guys, if I asked you this question, you couldn't tell me this, what does it tell me about your practice? It tells me that you don't do the numbers. And if you don't do the numbers, that means you're operating where? Or operating how? And Missy, give me some answers that we see here.
Blind.
If you cannot, blind, you're operating blind. And if you're operating blind, how can you improve? how can you improve? So if your teenage son or daughter says, I don't get math, well, what don't you get about math? All of it. Is there any way you're going to be able to help them if that's their attitude? If they can't say, well, it's division, or it's area under a curve, or whatever it may be, you need to have a very good indication of what you're doing that's working and what you're doing that's not working. And the first example of that is you need to know how much on average do you make per new client. See, once you have that, then it's simple. You take your income that you desired, divide it by that average profit, and what's that going to equal? The number of new clients that you need that year, right? So how many of you, and give me a hand, say yes, I do know. So how many of you know the average profit of your new clients this year? So Miss, you're gonna have to tell me.
Yes. Got quite a few yeses. I do.
Awesome.
Yep.
Good.
Yes,
So give me
yes.
some numbers, guys. And we're not going to attach names of these. I can't even see the names of these. But we'll give me some average profits per client.
Got a 15. Got a 12.
Okay, well, let's just use the 15.
10.
Okay, so let's use 10. That's even easier. So if I want to make $100,000 this year, and my average client is $10,000, I make $10,000. How much do I divide 100,000 by 10,000? What do I end up with? I need 10 new clients, right?
Got 10. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So it's very easy. If you want to make $1 million, that means I need how many new clients? 100.
100.
Yep. So calculate this for yourself. Whatever you want to make, figure out how many new clients do I need. And then when you figure out how many clients you want, you got to figure out that obviously every person you see doesn't become a client. So how many suspects, prospects, leads do I need to see to find that many customers? How many of these things do I need to see to get that many new customers? Okay. So just because you're getting in front of people doesn't mean you're closing them. Now, if you're graded at the 5Q system, it's basically a 90% or higher of these people should be turned into these people. And then what you're going to determine is your closing ratio, right? How many people that I get in front of is going to be divided by the number of closed deals, that times 100. That's going to be a closing ratio. So how many prospects do you need to get in front of? So how many prospects does your marketing bring in? So do you know how many prospects you bring in from low-cost marketing? How many prospects you bring in from lead generation? How many prospects you bring in from event marketing, whether it's live or virtual? Now, why did we break these up? Because you're going to look at cost per prospect. And are any of us, I don't care how much money you have, do any of us just write checks for marketing without knowing how well that marketing is working for you? So
Nope.
Let me ask you a question. What if low-cost marketing got me in front of 100 people and I didn't close any of those people? Event marketing, so there was nothing. It cost me $0 to get in front of 100 people and I didn't close any of those people. Event marketing cost me 20 grand and I closed 10 new clients for $100,000. Which one should I be doing more of? The free one, right? The free one. No. Because the free one, zero cost, got me zero income. Over here, event marketing spent 20 grand and made 100,000. So that means my profit was what? 80 grand. If you don't do that math, guess what most people gravitate towards? Event marketing or looking for free or no cost marketing? So I love low cost marketing. I love lead generation. But I only do those two things after what? Or as an addition to what? The place that you really make money, which is event marketing. Lead generation, low-cost marketing fills in the holes. Now, I've had guys who have been very successful doing lead generation, low-cost marketing, but were they doing just one program or multiple lead generation and low-cost marketing programs? Multiple.
Many.
So maybe you're doing 5 low-cost and lead generation programs because they don't work very well, but between doing 5 of them, they were able to find a couple new clients per month. That's okay, but you can't do 1 low-cost or no-cost or 1 lead generation and hope to make a decent living. But all my guys are in the top 10 for the last 20 years, guys. So Jeff, last 20 years, looking at 100% of our top 10 people, which one of these 3 were they doing?
Event marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, event marketing is expensive, but it's the thing that it's not expensive when you consider how many people you bring on.
And if you're good at closing, you're not afraid of event marketing. So if you're afraid of event marketing, that means you got to get better at what? Your skills. So I love lead generation. I love low-cost marketing. Now, using low-cost marketing to make enough money to pay for your event marketing, that's a smart business plan. But making it a money in low-cost marketing and then continuing with that, and that's the only thing you do, that's not going to make you a ton of money. And again, you're independent business people. You can do what you want. But I'm telling you on how to have a very successful 2022, and you can decide what to do with that information. So you need to have your marketing plan right now for 2022. And again, we've just said event marketing, as Jeff just said, is expensive. Lead generation, it ain't cheap either. I mean, no low cost, yeah, that's good, but that's not going to fill your calendar full of new people, okay? So if we know that it's going to cost us money for marketing, and we don't want to spend a lot of money on marketing, what's the best, let's see if we can get, this is a trick question, what's the best way to cut our marketing expenses? And you're going to have to give me some answers on this, Missy. What is the best way to cut marketing expenses?
Get better at closing.
Ah, who said that? That's awesome. That's exactly what you got to get better at.
Nick and Dale.
Very good. You get better at closing. Get better at closing. That means when you run an event, if you get in front of 12 buying units and you close 10 of them, versus a guy who runs an event and closes 2 of them, guess what? That second guy has to run 6 events at whatever they cost to make the same amount of money as the one guy who ran 1 event. So the best way to cut expenses is to get better at your skills, get better at closing. So you have to evaluate how good are you at closing. So as that applies with the 5Q process, what you want to look at is how many prospects does my marketing produce? You could look at the no cost, low cost. You could look at the lead generation. You could look at the event, but you have to determine how many prospects does my marketing produce, okay? Of those people, of those prospects, how many make the first appointment? What percentage? Now, and guys, I want you to, as we go through this, please tell me how many of you have calculated these numbers. How many make the first appointment of those prospects? Obviously, with no or low cost, you're probably going to get a high first appointment ratio because they're actually using a lot of your personal relationships for those no and low costs. Some of the no low costs, you're going to have very few first appointments. With lead generation, how many of those leads are going to are you going to get first appointments with? A lot, or a much lower percentage?
Much lower. Lots of lowers.
Much lower. But with events, if you're doing an event correctly, what percentage should you be shooting for event marketing? And this is live. If you're doing a live event, what percentage should be making appointments with you?
I've got a 90. I've got an 80.
Very good, 80.
More 80s.
80 is what we've seen with guys if they're following Jeff's and my coaching prior to doing the event. And guys that haven't got an 80%, when they've sent us the tape, Jeff and I have been able to work with them. And the next time they do an event, they get 80+% appointment ratios. So how many of us should be afraid to do events if we get 80% appointment ratios? Now, that's live. With virtual events, the average is generally about 40%, about half as much. About half as much with virtual. But still, 40%. Can you make a good living with 40% appointment ratios? Does anybody remember what my appointment ratio was for events when I was in private practice? What was my appointment ratio with events? When I made $1 million, the year I made $1 million, what was my appointment ratio at events?
I've got a 50%, got a 40%, more 50s.
24%. 24% was my closing ratio at events because people thought I talked too fast. I was a slick talking, fast talking salesperson. I couldn't understand what you're saying. You covered too much material, blah, 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 24%. So I was not good at closing. But now I have skills now that I teach you guys where you can get 80% appointment ratios. If I was getting, but what with 24% appointment ratios, what was I awesome at to make $1 million a year? Closing those people, getting them all to move their money to me. Now think about this. If I was getting an 80% closing ratio at the events versus a 24%, how many events would I have had to run that year? How many events would I have had to run that year to become a better, or to make the same amount of money? A third as many.
Third.
Did I cut my marketing expenses? To make the same amount of money, I could have cut my marketing by a third. I'm sorry, cut my marketing by 2/3 and only done 1/3 as much marketing and made the same amount of money. Did I cut my marketing expenses? Yeah, I cut it by 67%. Cut it by 67%. That's how you get better at getting more money. So for me, if I was going to work on something, what should I have worked on back then? My closing ratio when they're in my office, or my closing ratio at the event? Which one should I have worked on the year I made $1 million? What are they saying, Missy?
Event, closing at event.
Yeah, closing at the event. Because I was closing, virtually everybody came to my office, I was closing them. I didn't need any more help there. So if I evaluated my numbers, if I tried to get better at the 21-point checklist, tried to get better at motivational interviewing, how much would that have given me? How much benefit would that have given me? A lot or very little at that point? If I'm closing 94% of people, is it going to give me a lot of benefit or a little bit of benefit to try to make that better? As compared to getting better at closing for more appointments at the event. For me, it would have been much better for me to spend time and effort trying to get better at closing people at the event. That's the importance of these numbers. You shouldn't just shotgun what you're going to try to get better at. Figure out where your weak point is and get better at that thing. That's going to give you the biggest bang for the buck. So for me, it would have been getting more appointments at that event. So you need to, and if I didn't know that I was at 24%, I wouldn't have ever, hey, I made $1 million a year. I must be doing great on everything. No, 24% is lousy. So how many of the first of your prospects make an appointment for the first appointment for that data gathering? Okay, well then that's how many made the appointment. Now, how many show up? Because I don't care if everybody makes an appointment, but if nobody shows up, what good is that? So at an event, what can we do to get more people to show up? If we're doing a Social Security event, we're doing a tax event, we're doing an income event, we're doing an IRA event, we're doing whatever type of event, what can we do to get more people to show up that actually make the first appointment? What can we do? Well, first of all, let's go back to this. How do we get more people to make the first appointment? What's the trick to getting more people to make a first appointment at an event? How do we go from getting a 30% appointment ratio to an 80% appointment ratio, 50% appointment ratio to 80+% appointment ratio? How do we do that? What's the number one way we do that?
Get names.
We change yes, that's right. Use first names. Instead of presenting to the crowd, you have a bunch of individual conversations with people's names in the crowd. So you go, that's right, Mary. Mary's got that right. Did everybody hear what Mary just said? She said blah, 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 blah. Good job, Mary. And how many of those conversations am I going to have during that hour? I'm going to shoot for 60. Because that's how people will make, when we've listened to tapes where guys have followed Jeff's and my advice and they've used people's first names. We've heard people's first names. It's at least one time per minute during that 60-minute presentation. They get 80% appointment ratios. So that's how you get better at that. Now, even though you've made those appointments, how do you get them to show up? What are you going to do to get them to show up? See if anybody gets an idea on how to do that.
A little quiet here. Here we go.
Okay.
Use the USP.
Use the USP, and not only one USP, you're going to use all three of our USPs, or use all of the goal questions at the end of the event. So the goal questions you have at the first meeting, you can use any number of those at the end of the whatever presentation you're doing to get them to show up, because they want those things. What's another way you can get them to show up? Well, make sure you follow up with the appointments with a letter reminding them of the USPs and why they're coming to that meeting. Does that make sense? Now we go on to, they show up for the meeting. What percentage of people, if you do it right, what percentage of people should go through a 21-point checklist, or at least opt into a 21-point checklist?
All 100%.
100%. Because how many questions in our goal questions, how many questions should we get a 5? So when we give them the 1 through 5, 1 being, I don't really care about this, to 5 being, I will do anything to find this information. Tell me it right now. 1 being, I don't care. 5 being, I need that information right now. How many 5s are you shooting for at the first meeting with the goal questions?
All except kids. All of them.
All except, well, that's good. Very good. Yeah. So there's actually 5 of them. The life insurance one, the first one, passing all our money into heirs. The only reason we ask that is to see if we can't get an easy life insurance sale. That doesn't happen often, so it's a throwaway question. But then we have 5 questions that we are shooting for a 5 out of 5 on their part. So if they got 5 things that they want to know desperately, how many of them are going to opt into the 21-point checklist? When we've listened to that, and we began that about 5 years ago, those goal questions, we created about 5 years ago. And since then, guys that have been in my system for years said that is the best change we've ever made, because they do get 100% of people to opt in to the 21-point checklist when they use those goal scripts. And how many of these people are going to show up? How many people, those people are going to show up? Well, if they're not showing up, if they don't show up, that tells us that after the goal script, what do? Does anybody remember what we do after the goal script? We have a script that talks about their deepest fears. Their deepest fears, their visceral fears are, number 1 is fear. I'm sorry, not fears. Their deepest emotions, their most visceral emotions. Number 1 is frustration. Number 2 is fear. And number 3 is greed. So remember when we have the close, you see, so that we attack greed first. You say, so folks, we'll get I'll take a look at those things. We'll analyze those 5 things for you. But let me ask you a question. What would happen if we didn't do this for 6 months? If we didn't analyze these things for 6 months, what would happen? We're tapping into greed there. They're saying, well, I'm going to miss out on a lot of money. I'm going to miss out on these opportunities. And then the next question we ask, and we make them say it out loud. And do we only have one spouse say it, or that both spouses have to say it? Both. Because the one who's likely to spoil this deal and not show up for the next meeting is the one who's not saying anything. Okay, then what question do we ask to tap into fear? What if we, I'm sorry, I did that wrong. The first question is, why would we want to do this now? That's greed. The second question is, what would happen if we waited for 6 months? That's tapping into fear. Because if they waited 6 months, what could happen? Could they apply for the program that would replace their spouse's income if they waited 6 months? Maybe, but maybe what? Not. Could they apply for the program that replaced or pay for the first 2 years of long-term care without expensive annual premiums? Maybe, maybe not. Can you apply for those things after the fact? No. So we're tapping into fear there. Fear that we better get it done now, because if we don't get it done now, we might not be able to do it at all. And then the last one we tap into is frustration. You say, so why does it make sense? I mean, you're nice enough to come to the event, or nice enough to request more information from me if it's a lead generation system. And you're here today. So you've already invested a good amount of time with me. Why does it make sense to come back yet again and go down. Maybe I need to get you some. You need to get me some more information, and go downstairs to your filing cabinet and bring me back some of these statements or your power of attorney. I mean, that just seems like a lot of hassle. Why does it make sense to do that then? And you have to get them to say that, because if they say that and then out loud in their own voices, and then they go home and then the husband says, forget it. I want to do, you know what? It's too much work. I don't want to make copies of this or run down to his office to let him make copies of these things. Let's just forget it. What's the wife going to say at this point? No. You said right there in the office that it was worthwhile doing this and that you would go down to the basement, that you would get the filing cabinet, that you would go back with this information. See, they say it out loud, it commits them. So knowing these numbers, if they commit to a 21-point checklist and they don't show up, well, then I know I need to get better at my fear, at my greed, fear, and frustration script. So do you see how, if we know these things, we know what skill we need to work on? Make sense? And then what percentage of them, that you do sit down and do a 20-point checklist with, what percent of them tell you they need to leave their advisor? And if you're doing the 21-point checklist right, that should be what? What percentage?
All.
If in an hour and a half they tell you 150 times, sometimes in little ways, sometimes in big ways, in their own words, they need to leave their advisor, what does a tire kicker do? If a tire kicker does not trust their guy and says he needs to leave their guy, a tire kicker leaves. What does a plate licker do? If a plate licker says 150 times that they need to leave their guy, sometimes in small ways, sometimes in big ways, what do? They leave. What do the easy people do? They leave. 100% of people will leave their advisor when you do this right. And then how many people show up to the number 3? And then how many of those people move their money? So these are the things that we need to know. And we all have good skills, but we need to know we don't have all the hours in the day to work on everything. So we have to decide what skill will bring us from good to better income, and from better to the best income that I can achieve right now. You can't do by working on all the things. Work on the things where you're going to get the biggest bang for the buck. So the easiest way to cut expenses is to do your 15-minute drill every day. So, and again, I will tell people when they first come on, the number one indicator to me of somebody who takes their business seriously is a guy who does the 15-minute drill what percentage of the time on his working days? 100%.
100.
Because if we don't have 15 minutes in our day, if we are so Jeff, if you talk to an advisor and he says, I'd love to do the 15-minute drill, I just do not have time. What do we know about that advisor? How much money is he making?
Not a lot, not much.
Yeah, he either is not making much or he's making what?
Just enough to get by.
Yep. Or maybe, because if he was too busy to do the 15-minute drill, how much money should he be making?
Oh, a ton.
A couple million a year, right?
Yep.
But how many people will we find who says they don't have time to do the 15-minute drill are making a couple million a year? None,
really.
It's like you said, we find a guy who's actually struggling. And again, guys, we make so much money in this business by doing so little work. I'm encouraging my youngest son to get into this business. Why? I told him, dude, you can be in the bottom 20% of this industry and still make 70 grand a year. And 70 grand a year, is that good or bad income, guys? As compared to the rest of the world.
Not bad. Good.
There's a lot of people that would love to make 70 grand a year. And I'm not talking about that's the best you can make. In a lot of it, you know what? In a lot of industries, if you're a marketing professional, guess what? 70 grand is the top of the scale. if you're there's a lot of industries where 70% is the top of the scale, not the bottom of the scale. And in our industry, 70 grand is the bottom 20%. And there's no problem with that. Some guys have other hobbies. They like to remodel their bathroom. They like to whatever it may be. And making 70 grand a year, basically not doing any work, is a what? Fantastic living. But if you're looking to get better, make more money, and my son, if you ask them, describe what sales is like, guess what he would say? He's got this ingrained into his mind at age 21. Selling is either the poorest paying, most difficult job in the world, or it is the highest paying, easiest job in the world. And guys, do you think that my job was easier when I was making $1 million a year or when I was making $50,000 a year? Do you think it was easier when I was making $50,000 a year or making $1 million a year?
Million.
Yeah, way easier as $1 million. So I just replicated everything I did, and Missy can validate this. I was like a machine. I did the same thing over and over and over. Guess how much brain power it took to make $1 million a year compared to, and when I was making $50,000 a year, what was I doing all day long? I wasn't working. Guess what I was doing all day long? I was worrying about the fact that I was only making $50,000 a year. How hard is it a job when you spend all day long worrying about the fact that you suck at your job? Is that a hard job or an easy job? That's a hard job. Making $1 million a year. And how did I make $1 million a year? I discovered motivational interviewing, and I did my 15-minute drill. And I didn't do a 15-minute drill. I did an hour-and-a-half drill every day until I got great at what I did, because I reviewed every single meeting I did. I listened to the whole meeting front to back to find out where did this go wrong, where did it go right, how can I get better. Now, the year I made a $1 million a year, I was only doing 15-minute drills because I'd gotten my skills up to that point that I was just tweaking at that point. Recording your meetings and doing a 15-minute drill is how you will cut your expenses. If you record your meetings and do the 15-minute drill and talk to Jeff or myself, and Jeff, I mean, I'll tell you, my favorite part of my job is helping somebody with a 15-minute drill. My favorite part of my job is helping somebody do a tape review. Why do you think that's the favorite part of my job? Why do you think that that's the favorite part of my job? Because it's the one way I know with that particular advisor, I've made his or her life better. I helped her or him close their next case, their next bigger case. I've improved their life, because the stuff that we teach or find out on these tape reviews are not just applicable to their business, but also to their personal life, their friendships, their relationships with their wives and their sons or daughters. I love doing it. So the one way I know, because talking on this Monday call, yeah, you type in your answers, but I don't really know what you're going to do with it. But when I do a tape review, I know I've made your life better, helped you make more money, helped you have create stronger relationships. That is very rewarding to me. It's my favorite part of my job. And I don't know, Jeff, are you the same, or do you like running Morningstars for people?
No, I like the tape reviews.
And why do you like the tape reviews?
Well, I think that's how people get better. That's when you see the light bulb go off. That's because, like you said, when I send the Morningstar review off, I don't really know what they do with it.
No. So it's kind of the indication when I love shoveling driveways and I mow my own lawn. Why? Because I can look back and say, I did that. I cleaned that driveway, or I cut that lawn immaculately. I like doing that. Tape reviews is kind of the similar thing in what I do as your guys' coach. I can look back and say, well, I made Bob better that day. Bob got off that call more excited about his business, more excited to see another person, more excited to use his skills. It gives me that's what drives me to stay in this business. So to build your business plan, have a simple mission statement, set your goals, but then you don't use those goals. You use those goals to do what? To build a system to meet those goals. Identify your ideal clients, know your unique selling proposition, all three of them. Set your priorities for what you're going to make your priorities for 2022, and then adjust the plan as you go through the year. If you're off plan, call Jeff, call myself, call Jerry, call Missy. We're all willing to talk with you to help you get back on track. That's the favorite parts of our job. Does that make sense? So please, we're ending the call a little early here. Use the next 20 minutes to kind of digest what we've talked about today and figure out what is my goal for 2022, what are my priorities for 2022, and then work backwards from there to make sure that they can happen. And utilize all of us here at 5Q, all of us here at ECA to help you to do that, okay? You're not infringing on our time. That's what we feel is the best use of our time, is to help you get better at what you do. Make sense? So appreciate all you guys. I don't mean to be too preachy today, but this is how you're going to have a better 2022 if that's what you're after. These things we talked about. Know your numbers, build your system based on those numbers, and constantly adjust and evaluate those numbers throughout the year so that you can get better at the things that are going to give you the biggest bang for the buck. Make sense? Awesome. Well, then you guys have a great rest of the day. Spend this week doing these things we talked about today, and we'll talk to you all next Monday. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.